Track and field fans, welcome, welcome, welcome. Special live edition of, is this the Friday 15? It is Friday, right? No, it's Saturday.
This is a bonus pod. We did a Friday 15 on Friday. It's now Saturday night. This is our Let'sRun.com After Dark. We do this after big meets. If this is your first time tuning in, if you're a repeat listener or a Supporters Club member listening after the fact, thank you. But sometimes if there's a big meet, we'll pop on and just give our unfiltered reactions. Sometimes have a beer in hand, but Rojo, for reasons that I'll leave up to him if he wants to disclose them, won't be drinking. I don't have anything either tonight. So these are our unfiltered takes with just water and Coca-Cola fueling them. It's USA Indoors, people. 2025 U.S. Indoor Championships. We're here. We're in Brooklyn right now, but we're in Staten Island this afternoon.
And the beauty of it is many of you may not have known what happened because you may not have paid for the Norwegian streaming site. So if you're listening live, let's hear it in the chat. Did you actually watch the races? We've just received a text from upper management saying, don't assume people saw these races. We've seen no highlights. You need to describe what happened. But day one, looking forward to these championships. We thought that there could be some nice drama in the 3000s, and I think it lived up to the hype. Both races were thrilling. Both races actually pretty much like the major players we expected to be there were there, but really both narrow races. Let's start with the women. They were first, and this race was all about the return of Shelby Houlihan.
They were first. You're finally learning the pronouns, Robert.
So
laugh at my joke. That was a good one. Nikki Hiltz wins the title, but yes, Shelby Houlihan, that was a big story. I mean, to me, it was about both of them because Houlihan ruled this meet for 4 years during her prime. She won the 1500 3K double 3 out of 4 years from 2017 through 2020. Then she's suspended, sits out for 4 years. This is her first U.S. championships in 5 because there were no U.S. outdoor champs in 2020, and she's going up against the woman who's taken over as America's best miler on the women's female side, Nikki Hiltz, who has won the last 2 U.S. outdoor titles and the last 2 U.S. indoor titles in the 15. Now the question's who's the best? We haven't seen them square off, and it was very, very close. This wasn't the 1500. They'll race in that event tomorrow.
Plus, you had 1448 woman Whitney Morgan. Mm-hmm. But for those of you that didn't watch, a lot of European listeners didn't watch, etc. Basically, the gun goes off. Houlihan runs out in lane 2 for the first 400, and then she's like, I realized I was running a lot of distance. I didn't want to run extra distance, and she just led the race until the very last, 50 meters, and then tried to hold off Miss Nikki Hiltz. But Hiltz, it was very close. Hiltz won by,
hundredths. It was 848.28 to 848.43. So 1500ths.
I mean, in the men's race, which was even more of a thriller, it was 0.02 of a race. I with our angle, I definitely couldn't tell who won. I think in the women's race, I still wasn't certain who won. It was that close. But, in the end, Hiltz gets the win by 0.15. Houlihan gets second, and then Morgan makes the team because Nikki Hiltz is not going to be going to World Indoors, right?
Right. Nikki Hiltz is focused on Grand Slam track as a racer, and the first Grand Slam is 2 weeks after World Indoors. So Nikki has said they'll be skipping World Indoors to focus on Grand Slam. And yeah, I thought it was a fantastic race. I mean, the Houlihan, I didn't remember that she used to race this way because generally she would sort of just sit and kick. But 2020 U.S. Indoors, her last U.S. championship meet before this one, she actually did the exact same thing. She went from the front. She kind of picked up the pace, and that time she kicked away to win. This time she was so close because you could tell with 400 to go, that's when this thing really got going. That's when Houlihan dropped it from a 33-second lap to a 30.52. And that, at that point, Morgan was moving up and trying to get in position. And as soon as Morgan got onto Shelby's shoulder, Hiltz perked up and was like, actually, no, I'm going to take that position, and came over the top with a move of their own. And at the bell, Hiltz, moves up a couple times to the shoulder of Houlihan, 150 to go. Nikki tried to get by. Houlihan fought Nikki off, and I was like, wow, like this is going to be some battle. But Nikki had one more move left, and on the home straight, they unleashed it and came down and edged Houlihan at the line, but it was fantastic. And I came away thinking, wow, this was great. Like, I really missed this kind of racing. We did see it at Milrose in the men's 3K, but everyone's talking about all these world records. It's been amazing, and they've all been mostly on the men's side in the American middle distance. But this race reminded me, you can also have just compelling races and characters and matchups, and the time's not important. You just see great racing. That's what we saw in the first women's final of the meet.
Yep. And then behind them, I mean, it's kind of interesting because the names that we expected to be also up there were there. Whitney Morgan won 14:48 this year. John's actually pre-race pick to win this race, was third. She was only 0.2 away from the win. And then Mackay was also, so the top four all ran 8:48.
Well, do you realize Mackay had the fastest last lap, 29:17?
I didn't, because to be honest, I mean, they're all within half a second of each other. I didn't notice Morgan in this race. I didn't notice Mackay in this race.
Okay, Morgan was there. Morgan was trying to move on the inside when Hiltz was coming on Shelby's outside. Mackay left. She was a little further back and left herself just a little bit too much work to do, I think. But I was genuinely wondering, could Morgan pass on the inside? It was that close in the home straight if you didn't watch the race.
So, and I'm not sure. I meant to, we couldn't talk to all four. Obviously a lot of people wanted to talk to Shelby, and I had an extensive, long interview, asked her pretty much everything. I even asked her, hey, did you hear these comments that Nikki Hiltz said about you being homophobic? She said, actually, I had not heard those, but Nikki, I guess after Jonathan Galt asked her about it, Nikki proactively approached Shelby, I guess via Instagram, and they hashed it out, and she said we're good. So I didn't ask her if Nikki apologized, but I think Nikki realized she probably should not have been saying that stuff, at least publicly. And Shelby said, hey, we're good. So that's interesting. I think tomorrow I will ask Shelby, hey, did she apologize to you? What exactly did she say? I didn't push her too much on that. But Shelby answered every question you want to answer. She handled things today. I mean, in case you missed the Friday 15 yesterday, we told the Supporters Club members, by the way, if you want a bonus podcast like this every night, if you want to get this in your podcast feed, join the Supporters Club today. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. We've asked Shelby to come onto the podcast. We're asked her the doping questions that y'all have. And she's agreed to do that after USA's. But today she was willing to answer all the questions. I said, did you sort of enjoy, like, were you cognizant of the fact that you've waited 4 years for that? She's like, well, no, but I've been in, this was my first big meet. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed, that aspect of it, the bigness that she could feel. And her mother was there, was very excited about everything. I mean, if you're someone that believes in Shelby Houlihan and believes she didn't intentionally dope, basically it's been 4 years of hell. She probably lost about more than $2 million. Her reputation has been ruined by some people forever. And she recognizes that. She's like, look, I realize there's some people I'm never going to be able to change their mind. And that's fine. So good interview. Check it out on YouTube. We got tons of interviews on YouTube today. That's why we're here. So like and subscribe to us on YouTube.
Robert, another reason we're here is I wanted to see what the reaction is going to be to Shelby Houlihan. She's run 2 races already before this meet, but they were low-key college meets. You're not track. It's not as if the stands today were jam-packed, but you would think you might have some like pure track fans and not just sort of people who are there because they have to be there or they're related or whatever. So anyway, the U.S. Championships, like right before the 3K started, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a lap around here and I'm going to look, is there anyone wearing a Burrito Track Club t-shirt? Is anyone holding up a sign? And is anyone going to boo when Shelby's introduced on the start line? She was the last person introduced. And I didn't see any of that. I saw no sort of ill will towards her. I didn't see any shirts or t-shirts in the stands. If they were there, I missed it. And when she was introduced by Mike J., who is the terrific PA announcer at all the U.S. champs, he's also from Iowa. I think he called high school races probably. So he, I think he's a Shelby fan. he basically just, it listed off American record holder in the 1500. Welcome back, Shelby Houlihan. And she got a round of warm applause. I would say probably the biggest of anyone in the race.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, I think Hiltz was bigger. I mean, it was not like it wasn't a resounding like everyone going crazy, but it was warm applause. I didn't hear any booing.
I've actually filmed most of it. We could get a sound meter to figure out who got the largest applause. I'm actually not a fan of this, whole wokeness of the world, but I do think Hiltz she is well known. I think Hiltz might have been the loudest. I don't know. We'll see, but there was definitely no booing. And I thought Mike J, I thought the way he did it was perfect. He said, "Welcome back." I guess you could say something. I mean, unless you want to be rude to her. I mean, yeah, I thought that was perfect. He didn't mention the doping, but he said, "Welcome back." So acknowledges that there's been an absence, and he's Iowa. So it was what it is. It is what it is. By the way, for the record, John, get out your text phone. Somebody wants to know, we sold Burrito Track Club T-shirts, and, if you're a Shelby, the way I viewed that is, look, there's a lot of people, I don't know what percent it is, 20, 40% of the diehards are very upset with Shelby, and they're going to hate on her. And so they think this excuse is ridiculous. Even the Wall Street Journal wrote an article saying this excuse sounds ridiculous. And, people are going to hate, at least let her benefit from it. So we sold the shirts. I said, any profits made from the shirts? Someone wants to know, Runner Boy wants to know, hey, did you ever send her the shirts? The profit. I actually did send her the check earlier in the year, or last year, I guess. And, I asked Weldon, hey, did she ever cash it? She's like, yes, she did. And then I didn't know this until yesterday or today. John's like, yeah, she actually sent me a text message saying, hey, thanks for the note. I wrote a very simple note. I said something like, I hope you're clean. And then I said on the podcast what it was before, like something like that. I hope you're clean. If you are, good luck coming back, or something like that. I don't know. It's pretty basic. Like I acknowledge that we don't know the truth. Only she knows the truth. So, anyways, but it was a fun race, a close race. I thought this was a big win for Nikki Hiltz. I mean, Nikki she was so good. Her kick has been so insane in recent years. I kind of thought Millrose was a little bit disappointing for her to finish, third in that race?
So, well, Nikki got beat by Heather McLean. I think that was losing to Georgia Bell, who's the Olympic bronze medalist. No shame in that. I think getting out kicked by Heather McLean, who I think ran a stronger tactical race than Nikki did at Millrose. A little cause for concern, but this I think was very good because one thing that Nikki Hiltz has been able to do since moving to Flagstaff is just get a lot stronger. And that's why when there's a 355 race, the Olympic trials last year, it still wasn't enough to drop him. So winning a U.S. title over a pretty good field today in the 3,000, that's the first 3K title for Nikki after all those wins in the 1,500. Great sign for them. And looking at Houlihan, Robert, I'm curious. I'm not trying to play the game, oh, she ran this time after she came back. So does that mean she's still doping, or she was doping, or was she ever doping? What I would rather say is do we think, and it's still early, this is one championship race, we'll have more evidence tomorrow after the 15, but how does she compare to the version we saw before the ban?
Well, you made an amazing Excel spreadsheet. It's in the written recap, trying to compare what was her close today versus her other USA 3,000 meter wins. The problem is it's impossible to compare because
3 of the races were at altitude and before her ban, and none of them were in the super shoes, and she had the super shoes today. And some of the races are slower, some of them are faster. But if you look at it, this was her second fastest last 200 in a US 3K final. She closed in 29:35. Her best was 28:83 in 2018. And it was her fastest last 400, 59:87. Previously, her fastest was 60:65. And this was also her fastest time overall, 8:48. But again, some of these are 2 miles. The way I saw it is maybe because of the shoes, seems to be fairly comparable to where she was a few years ago. But the U.S. has also leveled up in that span. And it's going to be interesting seeing her go to World Indoors. I think, if you look at the world list this year, it's led by 3 Ethiopians, Ferweni Hailu, Gudaf Sagai, Burka Hailom. Now, who knows if they'll be running World Indoors and in what events, because remember, Hailu is the reigning champ in the 1,500. But theoretically, all 3 could run it because Hailu is also tops in the World Indoor Tour right now, which means she would get a bye, and then Ethiopia could enter Sagai and Hailom. Hailom, not a great like tactical runner. So, and then number 4 on the world list this year is Whitney Morgan, who Shelby just beat in this race. So I think a medal is very much a possibility. I want to see the fields, but the way Houlihan said, like, yeah, I think I'm all right. You know, I was pretty happy with making the team, and I've got another month to sharpen up and get better for closing. So I think she's very much going in with the intention of like, hey, I can fight for a medal in Nanjing.
Yeah. Yeah, she said, I asked her, what do you think you're better at? Like, well, first of all, she said that she felt like she's definitely better at leading because she's been doing all these workouts by herself for 4 years. But I said, do you think you're better at like 3,000, 5,000, or 1,500? Are you losing your speed as you're older? She said, well, I think I'm stronger because that's what I've been working on. I haven't been working on my speed. Just the reality of training alone and all this stuff. So she has time to work on that. And I was also, I've been sort of skeptical of her sister's coaching exploits. Sounds like her sister's only sort of helping out a little bit. She's like, I still have Jerry's workouts. And to be honest, I asked her, I said, hey, have you talked to Jerry since your band's over, or Shalane Flanagan or any of these people? She said, well, actually, my first race at Arkansas, Oregon happened to be there. He's been very supportive. It's clear to me that I think she would love to go back to Jerry. His support during the ban, he never lost faith in her. He never said she was a doper. He believes in her innocence, or that she unknowingly doped. Is something that is clear that it's important to her. So, anyways, now there's a little bit of a controversy here, folks, and we'll do it live on air. Apparently, Citius Mag cannot acknowledge that Shelby, for some reason, has gotten second. They've done an Instagram post about first. They've done an Instagram post about third, and they're deleting anybody who even comments that Shelby got second. I don't know. I guess they don't like anyone criticizing Shelby, or it doesn't make any sense why. It's a factual fact that someone who got convicted of doping is second. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to text Mr. Chris Chavez right now. It's kind of a funny text. I'm going to say, hey, Chris, I had to go to the bathroom and missed the finish of the women's 3,000. So who got second place? We'll see. I will reveal it live on air if he gets back to me. John, I was actually trying to get you to read the thank you note from Shelby on air, but you never got your phone out. People like to know the details, exactly what's said. They don't trust me to tell the truth, John. Anyways,
well,
Fan Man has an interesting comment here. He says that the biggest loser in this race was Katelyn Tuohy. John got a nice talk John got a chance to talk to Tuohy afterwards. I mean, she was up, battling, with like, 600, 800 to go.
He was there when the pace wasn't super hot. And then when Houlihan really started to, wind it down, that's when Tuohy fell off. And she was she was pleased with putting herself up there. But a lot of people were still in the race. She was just slightly higher up at that point. And she was like, look, my closing wasn't great. She said she's pretty pleased with how her workouts have been going. But she's like, look, I definitely need to work on closing. And, she was the NCAA mile record holder until a couple weeks ago. So it's not as if she doesn't have any wheels at all. But she was saying, if I did an all-out 200, I could probably run about 28. And the top 4 women in today's race closed in 29. So that's a weakness she has to address. But she seemed to be in pretty good spirits and thinks she's building some positive momentum, even though I would say this race in Millrose wasn't all that great for her.
Yeah, to me, though, the troubling aspect was that comment that she just acknowledged, like, all out, I'm 28, they're closing in 29. I don't know how you overcome that, but
I mean, I don't know what Nico Young's all out 200 was, but he managed to improve it. Like, we have seen athletes do this. Part of it is just getting stronger. So if your all out 200 meter is 28, get it so that you're not tired enough the last lap that you can actually still access that speed. So we'll see where it goes from there. But US, I believe the team of Houlihan and Morgan will be pretty good. That's a good team to send to Worlds in terms of like being competitive. And, maybe one of the Ethiopians has a bad race, so they don't enter all their stars. Like suddenly, you're certainly fighting for the medals there.
Guys, and gals, what do you think? I look pretty good in my large Let's Run Supporters Club t-shirt here. I was an XL. I've lost so much weight. My sub 3 hour marathon is just around the corner, folks. I'm looking good in the large tonight. If you want one of these sweet, super soft shirts, you can get it free by joining the Supporters Club. Go to letsrun.com/
Subscribe.
I'm not sure why that's not showing up on the screen right now.
Okay, shall we talk about the men's race? I feel like if Citius isn't really acknowledging it, we've done nothing but acknowledge that Shelby was second in the women's race.
I don't know if Chris Chavez is listening live. I have received a text message back. He says, I think the results are here. And he links to the results page. I think I'll just text back. Well, unfortunately, I didn't see it on your.
Okay, Robert, I would rather talk about running than just try to troll the members of the running media. So.
Chris Chavez and I are good friends. Anyways,
okay.
Men's 3,000 meter. By the way, we're going to break it all down. There was we didn't do a good job of my intro. Women's 800, there were some surprises, some big names sent home. Men's 800.
Wait, big name, define big names. Who are the big names that were sent home?
In the women's 800? We had
I guess Addie Wiley is.
We had the 2024 world leader, U.S. leader, Addie Wiley, who I thought would probably medal at World Indoors this year. Well, only a handful of women have broken two. She didn't make the final, nor did the U.S. leader from the Atlanta Track Club this year, the 2025 U.S. leader.
She's a big name. I thought you would know this, right? Olivia Baker.
Olivia Baker.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
I
mean,
well, I'm just saying. I mean,
I just don't view her as. I mean, she's a good level at the U.S. Good runner at the U.S. level. I don't view her as a big.
Who is the biggest name in the women's 800 today?
I would say Nia Akins, the reigning two-time defending U.S. outdoor champion. She made the final, and I thought that was notable because she DNF'd last week at Boston University, which she actually said was due to a panic attack. That's what she said. Has basically in races, she gets this spike of adrenaline and hasn't really, panicked and dropped out. It's something she's working on, but she made it through. And I would say Addie Wiley and Sage Hodeklecker. I mean, Kayla Edwards made the team last year. Olivia Bacon, to my knowledge, has never made a U.S. team, Robert. So that's why. Yeah.
Right, let's do women's 8. I mean, before we get to the men's 3,000. So, I mean, the biggest story was Addie Wiley is out. She led most of Heat 1 and then got passed late. She told John she got sick after Milrose. She said she's had some injury problems. Her workouts haven't been growing great. Sounds like she wasn't shocked that she didn't make it. Valerie Tobias of the Brooks Bees, who, by the way, are staying at our hotel here, she was the surprise winner, indoor PB 2:5:64. Sammy Watson also makes it. Sage Hodeklecker in Heat 2 and Chrissy Gear, the steeplechaser, they had a dead heat. They tied for the win. Only the Heat winner gets to go on. But then Chrissy Gear was DQ'd for stepping on the line on the first thing. So Sage Hodeklecker is in the final. Kayla Edwards, I mean, it's kind of interesting because Ajay Wilson is really sort of struggling at 30. She's unsponsored. She's not running nearly as well as she's before. Kayla Edwards is 31. She's like, look, I'm trying to win my first U.S. title. And she won heat number 3, 2:5:44, which I think was the fastest time of the day. And then McKenna Keegan also gets in on time. And then Nia Akins, she's been terrible, stepped off the track last week. The panic attacks, I had one of my top runners at Cornell had some panic attacks. I thought it was great that she opened it up. She's like, I've done a lot of counseling, a lot of therapy this week. She sounds like she's religious. She's been doing that too. And, it can be vulnerable. She's got a new coach, a lot going on. So I thought that was extremely encouraging to see her win the third heat.
Yeah, no, she looked good in that race. Good on the last lap. I still think tactically she puts herself in some bad positions, but she ran her way out of it. And I think that was encouraging to see. And I guess, Robert, I should apologize to you because there was another big name who didn't make the final, and we didn't mention her, Ajay Wilson. She was the world indoor champion 3 years ago. And really since then, not a lot has gone right for Ajay. She's just, dealt with some mysterious ailment that she didn't really want to talk about, and also is getting older, like you said. And I guess I just looked at it. I'm like, I wasn't surprised she didn't make the final just because she hasn't been running that great the last couple of years, but she is one of the most decorated American middle distance runners ever, and former American record holder. So I guess she is still a big name. But
she was encouraged by the 202. I mean, I think it's sort of. I think she felt like this is the most competitive she's been this year, and she's unsponsored. She probably needs to make a lot of money from Adidas. And I was like, hey, is that nerve wracking? Like to have money? She's like, well, I've been pretty cautious about everything. I'm not worried about that. It sounds like she wants to go through another Olympic cycle. But if you're a shoe company right now, there's no way you can touch her at a high valuation because it hasn't been there. So, but she and Akins are now training partners. It'll be interesting to see what she sees. And I mean, she was only 0.26 behind Olivia Baker today, who shockingly did not make the final. and came in as the U.S. leader. So, that was the women's 800.
Yeah, I would rather talk about the men's 3K, but that is your women's 800 recap. I mean, all right, here's your pick. Putting you on the spot. Who wins tomorrow?
God.
Because I picked against Akins in the lead up, and I thought she might not even make the final.
And she had the slowest time today of everybody.
Yeah,
so
but
to be more fresh for tomorrow because she saved herself.
She's more fresh because she ran a 2:01:30.
I don't trust it. I don't trust Akins for tomorrow. I just do not trust Akins, but I don't really trust any of these women. I mean, I guess Kayla Edwards has never won one. She's not exactly that consistent. Sage Herter-Klecker.
I feel like that's who my pick would be. Like, I feel like we still kind of robbed that we never got to see exactly what would have happened in the Olympic trials final if she didn't get caught up in the Thing Mo bumping. Like, she had her race thrown off on that one.
But you're picking her to win, but she almost lost today to a steeplechase woman. I mean, that doesn't make me feel confident.
Well, okay, but she almost lost because she ran 2:56. That was the second fastest time of anyone the whole day. So, Chrissy Gear ran a good race, I would say. So I don't know. Who do you feel more confident in? I would say this is a pretty open race and be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, did you talk to Valerie Tobias from the Brooks Beast? She looked great.
I did talk to her. Indoor PB. Anyways, wide open in that one tomorrow, folks. All right, men's 3,000 meters. Well,
and Ross McGowan, friend of Let'sRun.com, is asking, does anyone have any idea what Thing Mo's up to? Nope. Sorry. Reached out to her agent. Haven't heard anything. My guess is even if she was healthy. Well, actually, she did run indoors her first pro season 2022, but she didn't run last year. I don't know if she was hurt. She didn't run 2023. She might just be in the Sydney phase of her career where she's not interested in doing indoors. So I don't know what's up with the Thing Mo. I just have seen some Instagram clips that she is at practice sometimes in LA. That's really all I can give you.
We need a list of people that are skipping the indoor season. Hold them accountable. If anyone that skips Worlds cross country this year, you're on my S list for life. All right, men's 800. Before we get to the men's 3,000, we only had 3 heats. Heat winners, and the next 3 best times are going in. The new American record holder, Josh Holloway, wins heat 1. That was actually the slowest winning times of the 3 heats. Wire to wire, 146.59. Looked good. Not
much to say that.
Yeah. Heat number 2, though, was shocking to me. Wes Ferguson, the NCAA Division II champion from some school in Nebraska
Connie, which is the reason I know how to pronounce that city's name.
My God, he was the revelation today of the day one. He was sensational. 145.34. He beat only 3 guys in the field to run under 146 this year. One of them was Jonah Koech. He beat Koech by a full 1 second, and he put it all on him. More than that in the last lap. Ferguson closed. He had the fastest time of the day, and he closed in 25.6 to run 145.34. So we negative split that. No, not quite. It was 52 for the first lap. But 25.6 for the final 200. Shane Cohen, everyone remember the guy, the sick kick from Virginia who won NCAAs last year? Shane Cohen kicked huge in the last heat to get one of the time qualifiers. He closed in 26.69 in a 146 race. So you got 26.69 versus 25.60 in a 145.3 race. Ferguson's kick was so amazing to me. I was like, wow, if he does that tomorrow, can Hoey handle that?
I'm not sure. Hoey likes to run from the front, and at Millrose we saw he got out hard and took it to Bryce Hoppel, and that's why he was able to win. I think Hoey, if I'm watching that, I'd rather positioning does help in the indoor 800, getting that to the front. So if I'm Hoey, I'm going out and trying to run 144 and hoping that's enough to burn Ferguson off, because if closing 25.6 like that in a race that fast indoors, that's tremendous. And Robert was like, what the hell? Who is this guy? He's wearing an Oregon Track Club singlet? I thought Oregon Track Club was dead. Is he staging a comeback? No, it turns out he had ordered like a custom singlet or something for this meet. I don't know if it was custom. He had ordered a singlet and it was delayed in shipping. So he asked to borrow this one from his friend. And he's like, yeah, it looks pretty sweet, right? I'm like, yeah, it does. So he wore that one. He's still looking for a sponsor. He said his agent, Ray Flynn, is close to getting something. But in the words of Marlowe from The Wire, price of the brick just went up.
Ray, and if you're Ray Flynn, if you're listening, by the way, you don't need advice from me, but raise that price. I mean, that guy looked insane. Like if he can take down Hoey, he could take down a gold medal. With that type of
Hoey, I had as the favorite for World Indoors right now. So yeah, I think the question is though, like, you know, can you do it tomorrow on the big stage, or probably the biggest stage he's been on? Because I do remember, this is why his name stood out to me, 2023 USA's. He won his semifinal. He got DQ'd because I think he stepped on the line, like, you know, on the curve or something. But he looked great in that race. I was like, damn, I want to see what this DQ guy does in the final.
I remember being irate. I'm like, come on, him stepping on the line did not affect that. He looked so good.
Yeah.
But wow, did he look good. This reminded me of go back, 15 years of time when there was sort of like a D3 guy, like with a sick kick. Nick Simmons coming onto the scene. Like this guy, I mean.
So that was wow. And then last year, he gets fifth in his semi in the Olympic trials. Did not make the final. But now he's in the final, and he's up against a red-hot Josh Hoey. And it's going to be fun. And it's not like I thought Brandon Miller looked very good and in control in his semi as well. Like he won his, and there wasn't an issue there. So it's going to be a very good race. I'm excited for it. And yeah, we could have a new storyline, a new American, an unsponsored national champion. It's possible, you know?
I mean, we had a nice chat with Isaiah Harris in the lobby of our hotel this morning. He got in on time. He's made the last two World Indoor teams, but I think he's going to have a tough time tomorrow. To me, the winner, I thought the three heat winners were the best today. Hoey, Ferguson, and Miller. I would expect one of those three to win, or really would expect actually Ferguson or Hoey to do it. But, you know, indoor 800s is always, you know, pretty exciting.
All right, I want to talk about this 3K. We've been building our audience up so that we're going to have maximum listeners, hopefully. But
we didn't even hype this up. We talked about who's not here. Grant Fisher, last time I checked, that guy didn't even win. He won a bronze medal. We actually had an Olympic silver medalist in the men's 3,000 meters today. Kenneth Rooks was there. Didn't actually run well, but we'll have that. But men's 3,000, like, look, this was a fun race. It really was. It was even tighter than the women's. We expected Hobbs Kessler, the 143-800 guy. He said, I'm going for the double. And we were like, okay, he's got a good kick. But, you know, he was a little bit disappointed after the Boston 3,000. But then he runs the 346 mile. We're like, if it's fairly honest, is he going to have that kick? How strong is he going to be? And we found out that tonight because the pace was pretty honest from the start. And let's give a shout out to
another steeplechase Olympian, Matthew Wilkinson, pushing the pace in this one. So, because someone in the press row who I will not name, but they turned to me and was like, "Oh, this is shaping up right into Hobbs Kessler's hands." Like, I'm like, the race is strung out single file right now. It's actually pretty, you know, I know it's not a 7:22 race like Milrose, but it's still pretty honest. So I don't think it played out right into his hands. Like, it's still not easy to kick. It's, you know, this wasn't a tactical snore fest.
No, Wilkinson was like the perfect driver. This guy can make a money in Europe doing this. He goes 235, 510. I mean, just dead even, basically. 235 and then another 235. And he led it for the first 2,500 meters. Right behind him is Dylan Jacobs, who ran 7:30 at Milrose. And then Hobbs Kessler, who is right behind him. And so we've got Jacobs and Kessler, but it's fast enough. You're wondering, like, okay, is Kessler going to have the big kick? And then right at the bell, or was it 400 to go, when Kessler tried to go by Jacobs?
Oh, is it the bell? And, I mean, technically, I kept saying initially, like, oh, yeah, he never got the lead. According to the results, he actually was in the lead at the bell, but his torso was in front. He never got inside position. Like, Jacobs was essentially all out sprinting to fight off that move. Like, as soon as Kessler was making that move on the outside, Jacobs responded with a huge move of his own in the inside. And I think it took something out of both of them when it came time to the home straight, and they were basically just both hanging on for dear life. But it was a great battle over the last lap. And you would think, Hobbs Kessler's a 143-800 guy. So you give him the edge, but Dylan Jacobs, this was a decently fast race, and he's no slouch either. He's not a mile 1500 guy, but he was a two-time NCAA champion in college at Notre Dame in Tennessee, and he closed well. Kessler just closed a little bit better, but I came away impressed by both of them very much, and also by Sam Gilman, who I expected Kessler and Jacobs to be battling for the win. I didn't think Sam Gilman would still be right there with 100 to go in a 7:38 race, but he was. Hell of a run by him to get third, the Air Force Academy graduate.
Amazing. But let's go back to Kessler and Jacobs. I actually thought that, to me, I thought Kessler was far enough ahead with a lap to go. I mean, I guess it's 0.08. I thought he could have maybe cut off Jacobs, but I guess he figured out why risk it. It's kind of funny because actually Jacobs had the fastest last lap, even though he ended up having the lead in the turn because Kessler never got enough to cut in front from the outside. And then he had the best lap, but when you're running the extra distance, and he wasn't running extra distance. I mean, Kessler was just a little bit better, even though his last lap technically wasn't as fast, which is weird.
Yeah.
Very, very misleading there. But that was close enough that I thought Jacobs actually won. Like where we were 0.02. I mean, we had
a good view, and I couldn't tell between those two.
So great finish. But this Gilman guy was insane. Like he's wearing, I'm like, who the heck is this? John's like, he ran in the Air Force. He's wearing a New Balance singlet. And, you look up his last year at Air Force, and it was just.
Sam would be disappointed if we didn't do this right now, because right before we were interviewing him, Robert's like, so, what's your story? Robert's like, number one question, what was your best finish at NCAA? If he's never heard of you, he wants to know, all right, was this guy good in college, or what was that story?
Well, because I didn't have time to go through his whole resume. I looked it up. He was 15th in the NCAA 5000 in 2023. And then he was 11th indoors in the 3000. So he's not scoring neither one of those. And cross country, he wasn't even All-American. He was 57th. And then he's like, well, don't you know? He's like, listen to the podcast all the time. So hi, Sam. We hope you're listening live, dude. You were amazing. You were amazing. So the year before that, as a junior, he was 5th in the 5000. He was 26th, I think, was his best cross-country finish. He was an All-American. I mean, now he was running 13:25 in college. Didn't do much last year, but is being coached by Mark Coogan. He's got a full-time job in the Air Force, a desk job. But he's been running so well this year, he's actually been accepted into the Air Force World Cup program. So Coogan's been coaching him remotely, but he's been hopping. And Gordon Mack of Track All Access on YouTube has filmed a couple Grant Fisher workouts. He's been hopping in workouts with Grant Fisher and Mike Scannell there. He's like, to train with Grant is just amazing. And so he says, like, I just want people to know, like, not everybody is a Noah Lyles or a Grant Fisher has $1 million contract, but you can do it. And he just wants to inspire the masses. Now, our everyday man is still a guy that ran 406 in high school, pre-super shoes, probably. So you got to be talented at this level. But I thought it was a cool story.
Anyone who finishes third in the U.S. final while working a full-time job, especially when the two guys ahead of him are fifth at the Olympics and multi-time NCAA champion, he's right there with them. That's impressive stuff. So this was a good one for the blue-collar runners because Matthew Wilkinson, who's a D3 guy, was fourth behind him, and he had a good run. And the world's team here is up in the air because Kessler's not going. Jacobs is qualified and is definitely going. And then you've got Gilman, who is not qualified and would have to get leave from the Air Force to go to China. So that's kind of up in the air. And then same thing, Wilkinson, also not qualified, but might be able to get in if some people scratch. We also didn't even talk to him to see if he'd want to go. But there is a possibility. Yeah. I mean, I assume he would, but there is a possibility the U.S. could only have one entrant in this race. But I do think Dylan Jacobs at World Indoors, with how he ran in this one and his 7:30 at Milrose, I think he's going to be a factor in that race.
Yeah, because I haven't seen the Africans doing much of anything in the indoors this year. So
Could you have two OAC guys battling out for medals? You know who also ran a fast 3K this year, Robert?
Yes, I do.
Kai Robinson, right there. So I don't know if Kai's doing World Indoors, but yeah, that'd be pretty fun actually.
And they train together.
Right. All right, that's what I was saying. All right. Anyone else of note in this race? I think we mostly covered it, right? I mean, Olin Hacker, you would have wanted. He made the team last year. Like he was up there, kind of not afraid to go at Nagoose last year. And he was 5th at World Indoors, and he was only 10th in 7:44. So not a great run for him. And then we mentioned Rooks was 2nd to last in 7:56. He just hasn't had a great indoor season. But Rooks has also always been like a lot better at the steeple than most of the other events. So I'm not worried about him. I'll say that.
I really wish I'd gotten a chance to talk to him, but like we got to give this guy props. Like someone's like, why is show up? Appearance fee? No, there's no appearance fees here. Like it's an interesting indoor season. He did run 3:58 in the mile on January 18th, which isn't terrible for him. I mean, I think his 1,500 meter PB is like
3:58 in the mile in 2025. Like that would probably put him like 100th on the NCAA list or something.
I know, but he's only a 3:39 guy in the 1,500, so that's not that far off of that. And then he went to BU and ran 13:30, which is terrible in this day and age. And then today he was dropped pretty much at the mile and in last place. So,
I trust Ed Eyestone and I trust Kenneth Rooks. This guy has a pretty good championship performance record in the last couple of years. I trust they'll figure it out.
No, I'm just giving him, like, you wouldn't think you'd show up if you're going to be running that poorly. So it's just fascinating someone that good. I mean, this guy, let's remember what he did last summer. He ran probably the greatest race I've ever seen in American. I guess maybe Cole Hocker did win the actual gold medal. But we
Kevin Jaeger 8 flat in Paris. I mean, there are a lot of great American races. But it did get Robert said at the time, he was like, that was maybe my favorite race.
I mean, you also had the not the Coburn, but the women's steeple race when
Frericks went for it in Tokyo. Yeah, we've been fortunate to see a lot of good ones.
But I was watching him just get dropped today. I'm like, how in the hell did this guy put the Ethiopian steeplechaser world record holder into the infirmary? I mean, it was amazing.
Lamet Chagoma.
Okay, I've received another text from Mr. Chavez. Shocks, our social media person must have missed the fact that Shelby Houlihan has finished 2nd. Wish he would just admit it.
Well, what is it possible? Did you hear about this, Robert? That, as you might be aware, the USATF meet this afternoon was only available by pay-per-view. And what I've heard is that some people who tried to purchase this pay-per-view, they actually had like a credit card notification. I don't think it went through. They were like, that credit card got flagged because of it, because it was viewed, I think it was like viewed as like as a sketchy purchase or something like that. So yeah, I think it might have got declined. Like that might have been an issue for people watching the race.
All right, what else? Folks, give us your questions in the chat. Mailbag time. Mailbag time.
We haven't talked about the single biggest star of the entire meet, the person who got the biggest cheers and made arguably the most famous athlete in the whole meet, the 17-year-old high schooler Quincy Wilson.
And we also haven't talked about
who Robert thinks isn't very good, apparently, because he only broke the high school record like a couple weeks ago at Milrose. But this guy he's made for the moment. And
he has
heat 3.
I'll admit he has the it factor, but I wasn't impressed by him today. He ran 46:41, and he had the slowest time of anyone making the final. And I know he set a high school record, John, but I'm not seeing the progression. I am worried.
Well, you're not seeing the progression. He PR'd. Like what? How do you not see that's the progression? He ran faster this year indoors than last year.
He's one of the most popular people in the United States track and field. Like my uncle knows who he is. Casual Spanish friend from him. He gets huge cheers. I'm not denying that. He's amazing for his age. I'm worried that he's physically not going to be tall enough and big enough to be one of the very best in the world. And I wasn't super impressed by him today. He does have the it factor. It was amazing that he won the heat. It's exciting, but it wasn't amazing to me. I thought Will Sumner, this is a great hope for the U.S. in 800. He's just not right. 46.76. I need to see him in the 8. Him running the 400 is not doing anything for me. So that was kind of disappointing to me. It'll be Quincy's going to have to run a lot better in the final to make the team.
Yeah, and I would say one thing was working against him. He was in lane 2, and he just didn't get out that well. It's like that's a tough spot to be in coming from the inside when getting positioned at the brakes so hard. He was maybe 3rd at the bell or something. Like I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. He's going to have some work to do. And he got around him and closed him down. The crowd loved it. So I'm not as concerned like the time was slow. I'm just more concerned like getting into position is going to be hard, getting out really hard that first 200. But I was impressed how he came and won the race. The guy who really impressed me was Chris Bailey, who won Heat 2 for Tracksmith. I mean, he ran 44 point, I think, at Arkansas a week or two ago. And in the prelims today, he ran 45.15. He won his heat by over a second. He was way out in front. Like that guy, I think he can go. I mean, we've already seen him go under 45 seconds, but he's your favorite for tomorrow, and he's in sensational form right now.
That's what I'm talking about. Basically, a guy who's got Tracksmith as a sponsor, so he's basically unsponsored.
Yeah, a guy who was Chris Bailey was an Olympian for the United States last year. So unsponsored. I mean, he has Tracksmith for a sponsor. He's still one of the best 400 guys in the world.
All right, a few other things that were interesting today. One, Josh Hoey's brother, Jonah Hoey, younger brother, was in the 800. And, you know, to be honest, I mean, some people think that Josh Hoey's improvement is too good to be true. Like, who goes from 147 to 143 at age 24 or whatever? He's been stagnating for years. People are suspicious. It's been wild talking to people about this. John's gotten texts. I've talked to people, whatever. And, you know, one of the pushbacks that I was saying to people was, well, if he's on some secret drug, why wouldn't his brothers be on the drug? It's not like they came down 4 seconds either. Well, Jonah Hoey, the younger brother, did have a big PB today. He came in as a 148 guy. He ran 147.0, and he said he was hoping to run 146. I had a great talk with him. Check out the YouTube interview. He made me feel old. It's like, so nice to meet you, Mr. Johnson. Please don't call me Mr. Johnson. Makes me feel old. But it was pretty interesting to hear him. He's like, I don't work out with my brother. I'm like, what? And he was, you know, he said, my brother works so hard. He's an inspiration. They warm up together. They do their things, but they're doing. He's not as fast as his brother, so they kind of, you know, one of them will run a 200, then the other one will run a 200. They're not doing the same thing at the same time. He's occasionally I'll run a rep with him to like try to set the pace and do 75% of it. But I thought that was fascinating. And then there's an older brother, I guess, who didn't make it. Little known fact, he was on the team at Penn State with the Brooks Beast, Isaiah Harris.
Yeah.
So small world out there in the 800. So, again, if you're just joining us live, we have hundreds. We need to crack 1,000, John. We're on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and X.
It also helps when this meets on the East Coast because, well, I guess it's almost 11 p.m. East Coast time, but sometimes we'll be doing these from Eugene and it would be like, you know, 1 a.m. and people would be still. I mean, that's the Olympic trials. That's the magic of the Olympic trials for you. But it's a Saturday night in February. You know, it's not the most exciting time of the year to go out and hit the town. So maybe we got a little bit of a captive audience, but we appreciate you guys tuning in, or guys and gals, I should say.
Look, come on. Don't you want one of these shirts? Don't you want to get this as a podcast, not have to catch it live? Join the Supporters Club today. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. By the way, go to the homepage every single day. We've written an excellent 3,000 meter recap. 2 of them, actually. I'm debating tomorrow about going live from the facility before I head out. If I just go live, John, and leave the writing to you and the Supporters Club member thoughts leader, I could get home in time to put my son to bed. What time is the meet tomorrow? It's much earlier.
1 to 3 p.m. is the TV window. Oh, we're watching Borrega's debut. Yeah, what time is that? That'll be Seville. That'll probably be what, like a 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Probably like 4 or 5 hours from now. I can't believe we didn't mention this at all. The number one story in the entire sporting world this morning. Southampton 0, Brighton and Hove Albion 4. Brighton back into the top half of the Premier League table, or in 9th place. European football only a few points away. Let's go Seagulls.
All right. This is sober Jonathan Gull. It's a good thing we've never really seen him drunk on one of these shows before. All right. A few other things. One, Grant Holloway had an incident yesterday he tweeted out when he heard that the meet wasn't being broadcast on TV. He said fans should not pay for this. And I sort of asked him about that. Check it out on YouTube. I said, well, you know, it was on Runner Space last year. You had to pay last year. He's like, I know. And it's a joke. He's like, we've been setting world records at meets. Why can't this be on NBC? He just thinks it should be on national TV. And he said, I've got no problem telling that to Max Siegel to his face. So where's Max? So I wish I'd gone a little bit farther on a couple things. Like when I was talking to the younger Hoey brother, I wish I said, hey, what would you say to people who think this is too good to be true? I wish I had said to Grant, like, hey, man, you know, maybe if we weren't, do you think we're paying Max Siegel too much? Like one year, did he make like $4 million? If we only paid him $1 million, we probably could pay NBC a couple $100,000 and put it on there. But I didn't ask him that. But, you know, that was interesting. People want to know, John. See, now it's his mailbag time. Oftentimes we'll be in an Airbnb, and John and I will not be sharing a room. But
how about we ask? Someone asked, "How is the crowd at the meet?" I feel like it's a more germane question than do we share a room on the road.
Well, I don't know if my wife's listening. I don't want my wife to know I am sleeping in the same room as Jonathan Gold tonight, folks.
We share a room, but we don't share a bed.
Oh, okay.
Someone in the comments saying, "Does Max Siegel go to nationals?" Yes, he absolutely. He was in the VIP section. He was definitely at the meet today. How was the crowd? Wasn't full from what I could tell. It wasn't.
Oh.
Well, what did you say? Like 2/3 full? Like there was certainly good seats available, it looked like, but I didn't do a head count of like spectators or whatever.
I would say maybe 2/3 full. It's disappointing. It's a beautiful facility. If you've never been here, it is beautiful. It's right on the water. Nice modern building. Very well done. But I just walked in. I was just like, man, it's kind of embarrassing. Like how many seats are there? And I got on the app before the thing and just like, oh, there's just tons of seats you could buy.
Well, you know what made it feel like a slightly bigger event though, Robert? The mounted police outside. Like, you know, I go to football NFL games sometimes. You'll see like cops on horseback. You're like, oh, there's serious crowd control issues here. Good thing we got the Stadies on their horses. And we had that as well in Staten Island, but I don't think they were exactly necessary.
I did tell John it was a waste of resources, but it looked good. I took a nice photo, make it look like it was a Super Bowl with the mounted horses, the sign. I think they have I can get a free Toyota bag that I can stylize myself with some sort of heat press tomorrow. I'm going to try to check that out. They had a New York Roadrunners beanbag toss, but nobody was manning it.
No one was manning it because everyone had left the arena.
No. Even when I went out during the meet, it was not like that.
Okay. Also, I enjoyed the hot buttery pretzel in the concession stand. I thought it was actually quite good if you're going to go to the meet tomorrow.
Funny, Max. Someone says that Max Siegel go to nationals. Yes, he does. Funny story. I heard someone once was asked, does he like track more or NASCAR? And someone said neither. He likes money. So that was a good response. Hopefully he can figure out a way to make money for USATF and not just himself moving forward. Anyway.
All right, Robert. That's we're coming up on an hour here. So all right, let's just do predictions.
We need to do our predictions.
I think we should do some predictions for tomorrow. So I already kind of said who I'm going to pick to win the 1500s. I picked Heather McLean beforehand. I'm sticking by that, even though Nikki Hiltz looked very strong today. The men's 1500, I don't see any reason to pick against Hobbs Kessler. I think he'll bounce back just fine. And then the 800s, we already said the women's 800. Did you make a pick? I'm going with Seicho DeClecca, but I don't feel confident in it. But she would be my pick. And then the men's 800, I'm gonna pick Hoey just because Ferguson looked amazing. I want to. Is it too much for me to say I want to see him do it again in the final?
No, it's not too much to do that. I'm going Ferguson in the upset. I think Kessler's going to win the 1500. For the women, I don't think Quincy Wilson's going to make the team individually. Maybe he can make the relay. For the women, 1500. I guess I got to go with Hiltz. I mean, Houlihan told me she thinks she's better at the longer stuff. She hasn't been doing a lot of speed work. Hiltz's kick is pretty sick. So Hiltz won today. I think she wins again tomorrow, or they wins again tomorrow. And 800, that's next to impossible for me. For the women's 800.
There's only 6 women to choose from. So it's McKenna Keegan, Sammy Watson, Nia Akins, Valerie Tobias, Keila Edwards, Seicho DeClecca.
Seicho DeClecca's father is Cornell alum. He donated to our Pan Am Games legal defense fund that one year. I should root for her, but she seems to come up short in some of these races. Akins has not been running well. Kayla Edwards at 31. That would be kind of a cool story. I can't turn my back on the big red accord now.
So you began by almost mocking me for picking Sage Hoda-Klecker, and now you've joined me in the prediction club. I guess, Robert, we did some crazy stuff at BU on Friday. Like, do you want to just save that for the regular podcast? Like, there's 3 high schoolers breaking 4, including 2 from the same high school. Does that do anything for you? How do you feel about that? Including a high school record. It's not just like they were breaking 4. We had the 2 fastest indoor miles ever by high schoolers. Owen Powell, 356. Josiah Tostenson, 357. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm glad that it was done on a 200-meter track, that the fastest time ever is on a legitimate track. But
wait, let's be real here. I think BU is faster than Washington.
I don't care. We got to have records. We got to have standards. It needs to be a 200-meter bank track, not some 300-meter track that's terrible for spectators. And I saw someone on the message board. This is Anda Marika Powell's, the Washington coach's son, who's now the U.S. record holder. Someone's like, well, how much is he going to improve? His parents are probably very involved in everything. When we talked to Andy Powell at USA's, NCA's a few years ago in Austin, John, he's like, and someone's like a sophomore or junior, he's like, I'm not involved in my son's running at all. So I think the future is very bright for him. I thought that was cool. And then what were the other crazy times you were saying there?
Well, Josiah Tostenson, who will be Owen Powell's roommate at the University of Washington, as if that school needs more great milers. He ran 357. So he was under Hobbs Kessler's old record of 357.66. The problem was Owen Powell ran even faster, like 5 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
So, and his teammate, Tavon Kitchen, they go to the same high school, Cradle Lake. It was Crater High School in Oregon. And they both broke 4 in the same race, which is the first time that's ever happened. One school with 2 sub-4 milers in the same race. So that was nuts. They were saying they're the best high school duo ever, they think, Robert. Now, I didn't do all the numbers, but I was like, these Newbury Park guys, Newbury Park had like Lex and Leo Young were like setting up close to national records. I suppose these 2 guys are too. Tavon Kitchen broke the national record in 3K last week. And then Colin Solomon, Nico Young were on the team, and Aaron Solomon won NXN. Like, it's hard to make exact comparisons, but I don't know. I think these 2 are way, way up there. So they're the 2 first time 2 guys sub-4. They got that going for them.
It's kind of an interesting debate because how could one of them has the number 1 time in the 3,000 ever, and one of them has the number 2 time in the mile.
Yeah.
So how do you argue with that? But on the other hand, like how do you put guys that were not like contending for national cross country titles? And I know one of them was hurt in cross country, is the greatest duo ever. Like high school to me is about cross country. Maybe these are certainly probably the fastest indoor miles. We'd have to really do the research to see like who else could claim this type of thing back in the day.
Robert and Weldon Johnson?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
I decided to stay in the straight and narrow, to not do the doping. So check it out tomorrow. We may do it like right after the meet ends, like 3 o'clock, 3:15, live from the facility. Shorter show, like 30 minutes, so I can hop in the car and get home. John will then stay there all night writing the recaps and then going to the Chinese embassy so he can cover World Indoors. The pros may not be there, but this guy will be to hand out the medals.
Oh, let's hope I can get that visa sorted first. But thanks everyone for tuning in. It's a lot of fun. Had some great pizza in Staten Island tonight, by the way.
What was the name of the restaurant?
Tony's Brick Oven. We didn't even get the brick oven pizza, but didn't matter because the pizza we got, Tony's Special, I think that was what it was called. Delicious. So
great. We just got a text up for management. My brother is on vacation. He said that he can produce the podcast tonight, so I don't have to do it.
We're gonna go to the strip clubs. Let's go. Wait. We're supposed to say that after we turn off the recording. All right.
Wow. John's starting to talk like me, folks. I don't objectify women like that. I'm the best feminist journalist in all of track and field. Thank you, Linda. People want to